Dawn cracked over the Galactic Defense Academy like a blade of pale gold, slicing across the enormous drill yard where hundreds of cadets stretched, clicked, vibrated, or hissed through their warm-ups. The air shimmered with exhaust from hovering assessment drones. Even the ground seemed alive, metallic plates humming faintly beneath the soil, ready for the morning's trial. At the far edge of the formation stood one of the smallest beings on the entire campus, a wiry Earthborn human girl named Rhea Calder. Her uniform sleeves hung just slightly too long, the collar half an inch too wide. Nothing about her appearance suggested danger. If anything, she looked like a freshman who had wandered into the wrong academy. The alien cadets noticed. A pair of avian siblings whispered in rapid chirps. "Look, the soft-bone one is back." A six-limbed arachnid cadet flexed his claws. "If the gauntlet doesn't break her, the ground will." A towering Vraxian reptilian cracked his tail. "Humans barely qualify as apex anything." Rhea heard it all. She didn't flinch. She didn't glare. She didn't twitch with offense. Instead, she counted the wind gusts brushing her cheeks, studied the angles of the rising obstacles, and marked which species favored lateral movement versus brute force. Her heartbeat stayed even. Every inhale was measured. Every exhale was controlled. She wasn't here to impress them. She wasn't even here to defend Earth's pride. She was here for a promise, one whispered to a dying woman on a wooden porch in Montana. Footsteps thundered. Conversations halted. Commander Telex entered the yard. A 9-foot-tall four-armed veteran decorated with old battlefield scars, Telex moved like a man accustomed to gravity shifts and orbital warfare. His voice boomed across the courtyard. "Cadets. Today you face the reactive agility gauntlet." The earth groaned as the gauntlet activated. Plates rotated. Sections of soil opened. Holographic turrets powered on with a rising whine. Floating platforms blinked and drifted like metal stepping stones. It was less a training exercise and more a living creature, one that punished hesitation with mechanical cruelty. Cadets formed lines. Most jostled for the front, eager to show off. Rhea stepped quietly to the back. Several aliens snorted at that. "Look, she hides behind the strong. Soft skin knows she'll shatter. Earthborn always break by obstacle 3. Rhea ignored them. She kept studying the course. Turret rotation frequency, 0.68 seconds. Wall wave cycle, 3.2 seconds. Platform tons, variable. No pattern was perfect, but the imperfections formed a rhythm. She began to see the whole gauntlet as a single moving entity rather than scattered obstacles. As the first groups launched forward, chaos erupted. A Vraxian misread a pivoting wall and slammed into a hard light barrier. A crystalline cadet jumped too early and got blasted backward by a stun pulse. An avian glider miscalculated a gravity pocket and spiraled into a net. Rhea watched everything. Not their mistakes, the AI's reactions. Every misstep created an adjustment. Every adjustment created data. She built a map in her mind, one decision at a time. When her name was called, murmurs rippled like heat. She won't make it 5 meters. Bet she doesn't reach the first jump. Her bones will snap. Rhea walked forward calmly, her expression unreadable. She rolled her shoulders, not in preparation, but in alignment. The instructor's eyes narrowed. He recognized something in that movement. Not fear. Not bravado. Calculation. She stepped into position. The buzzer sounded. Rhea didn't sprint. She didn't charge forward like every species did. She dropped her weight, pivoted her hips, and slid under the first rotating arm before it completed its sweep. Gasps burst across the yard. She dove sideways through the closing gap between 2 steel plates with a margin so tight even drones paused to reskin the footage. She wasn't fast. She was early. Turrets fired, but she was already leaning out of the blast path, the plasma beam missing her scalp by a millimeter. Movements small, precise, barely perceptible. Almost lazy. But every action was placed exactly where it needed to be. Cameras zoomed. Aliens squinted. What species moves like that? She isn't reacting, she's predicting. That shouldn't be possible. Rhea moved deeper into the course, slipping between obstacles like water shaping itself to stone. The gauntlet tried to adjust. Turrets recalibrated. Platforms shifted their timing. Walls altered their angles. She adjusted faster. Her knees bent at odd human angles. Her shoulders rolled softly. Her momentum shifted in tiny increments, a style that looked clumsy at first glance but revealed a frightening truth to anyone who knew combat. She wasn't fighting the course. She was reading its future. Commander Telex leaned forward slightly, eyes widening. He'd seen movement like this once. Decades ago. Executed by elite Earthborn task units operating in terrain too unpredictable for conventional reflexes. Delta phase anticipatory movement. A technique thought lost. Aliens could not see the chessboard she saw. Their vision relied on motion. Rhea's micro-adjustments were so slight they registered as stillness, then sudden repositioning. She's teleporting, an avian cadet cried. No, a crystalline cadet whispered. She's outthinking the AI. Rhea neared the final stretch. The deadliest part. 3 synchronized platform drops. A horizontal blast pulse. A triple wall shift designed to break rhythm. Even the strongest cadets often failed here. The crowd quieted. Rhea paused for 1 full second, an insane move. She inhaled. She exhaled. Then she stepped forward. Right foot, precise. Lean, calculated. Jump, into empty space. A collective gasp exploded as the platform rose beneath her exactly when she landed, as if she had summoned it. She bent into a backward arc so deep the blast pulse grazed the air above her nose. Walls slammed shut behind her, but she was already rolling through a gap that didn't exist until half a second later. Silence crashed over the academy. Rhea stepped off the final platform with no flourish, no victory stance, nothing but a small breath of relief. The AI emitted a warning beep. It couldn't categorize her movement data. The crowd erupted. Impossible. No human can do that. She cheated, she must have cheated. Scan her. Scan her. Telex lifted one hand. The entire yard went silent instantly. Drones swarmed Rhea, scanning her biochemical signatures, skeletal density, muscular output. No implants. No enhancers. No assistive gear. Just a human girl with calm eyes and steady breathing. Telex stepped forward. The cadets expected reprimand. Or dismissal. Or accusation. Instead, the commander studied her, then turned to the aliens. You fools, he said softly, voice carrying across the entire yard. That wasn't luck. That wasn't cheating. That wasn't impossible. He pointed at Rhea. Only Earthborn move like that. Gasps tore through the formation. Some stepped back. Some leaned forward. Some whispered as if witnessing a myth made flesh. Rhea lowered her eyes, unsure whether to bow or simply stand still. But Telex wasn't finished. He took one slow step toward her. Cadet Calder, he said, voice suddenly thoughtful, where did you learn that discipline? Rhea hesitated. From my grandmother, sir. The yard erupted with more whispers, confusion, disbelief, fear. But Telex's expression changed. Not with shock. With recognition. The scene froze on that moment, Rhea surrounded by enemies, allies, skeptics, and an instructor who suddenly understood far more than he let on. A wind swept across the yard. In the shadows behind the obstacle towers, something moved. Someone watched. And the chapter ended there, on the razor edge between revelation and danger. The drill yard was still buzzing long after the gauntlet shut down. Cadets replayed Rhea's footage on personal HUDs, slowing it, reversing it, looping it, yet the movements still defied logic. Some aliens blamed glitches. Others blamed luck. None could fully articulate what they had witnessed. Rhea stood alone near the edge of the courtyard, letting the noise drift around her like static. She wasn't basking in glory. She wasn't trembling from fear. Her breathing remained steady, her posture calm. But inside, she felt the weight of 1,000 unfamiliar eyes tracking her every inhale. The reptilian fraction cadet approached, towering above her like a moving wall of emerald scales. He sniffed her, nostrils flaring sharply. "Human," he growled, "what trick did you use?" Rhea stepped back, not out of fear, but to maintain reaction distance. "No trick," she said quietly. "Just timing." His pupils narrowed to slits. He didn't understand the answer, which irritated him more. Before the tension could escalate, Commander Telex strode forward, his 4 arms clasped behind him with military precision. "All of you," he said, voice cold enough to freeze plasma, "explain something to me." Aliens stiffened under his gaze. "Why did you mock the Earthborn cadet before the trial began?" The avian who had chirped earlier tried to speak, but his translator stuttered. "Statistics, sir. Humans score lowest in." Telex cut him off with a raised hand. "Ignorance. I expect it from civilians. Not from fleet cadets." He turned, addressing the entire crowd. "Earthborn neurology is unlike any species here. You evolved on a world where apex predators ambushed from every angle. Your ancestors scanned for movement patterns, hazard cycles, wind signatures, shadow progression. Over generations, humans learned to calculate unpredictability itself." Silence spread like oil across the yard. Telex continued. "Your bodies may be fragile. Your strength modest. But your perception? Your anticipatory instincts? They evolved under survival pressures most worlds never dreamed of." Murmurs rippled. Some cadets looked at Rhea with new respect. Others with rising hostility. Rhea felt none of it mattered. She didn't crave validation. She didn't need apologies. But she sensed the shift, pressure turning heavier, expectations growing sharper. Telex's gaze lingered on her for a moment before he stepped away. He wasn't finished with his thoughts, that much was clear. Something about her technique unsettled him, not in fear, but in recognition. Rhea left the yard with steady steps. Inside the dim calm of her barracks, she finally allowed herself a quiet breath. She sat on her narrow bunk and slid a tiny holographic frame from her pocket. It flickered softly, her grandmother, kneeling beside a younger Rhea on a grassy hill in Montana, their hands pressed to the earth. Her grandmother had whispered, "The world is chaos, Rhea. You don't outrun chaos. You predict it." Rhea touched the image with gentle fingers. "I'm trying," she whispered. The academy wasn't just a trial. It was an escape from grief. A promise. A way to keep alive the part of her grandmother who had believed in what humans were capable of. She tucked the hologram away. A loud metallic thud echoed from outside. Rhea stood. In the alien dormitory, a different atmosphere brewed, one thick with fear, jealousy, and bruised pride. She cheated. She must have. No human can predict artificial algorithms. She moved before the AI fired. That shouldn't be possible. She defied species hierarchy. The crystalline arthropod slammed the limb into the wall, fractures spreading across the quartz. If humans can do that, what else can they do? The room fell silent. None of them had an answer. Fear is a mutating thing. It grows teeth. It finds targets. And tonight, it found Rhea. She barely made it halfway across the courtyard before 3 cadets stepped into her path, the reptilian fraction, the insectoid with razor claws, and the crystalline giant whose limbs shimmered like carved ice. Soft skin, the insectoid hissed, mandibles clacking. "You humiliated us." Rhea's voice remained even. "I didn't humiliate anyone. You made us look weak," the crystalline cadet snapped. Rhea tilted her head. "I ran the course. Nothing more. You move like a phantasm, the Vraction growled. Prove it wasn't a trick. Face us. Now. A challenge. Rhea shook her head. I don't want to fight. They interpreted refusal as arrogance. The Vraction lunged. Rhea didn't step back. She shifted her weight by a fraction. The reptilian struck empty air, stumbling forward. The insectoid swiped with 3-bladed limbs, each one slicing nothing but wind as Rhea leaned half a centimeter at a time, forcing him to overextend until his claws scraped sparks from the stone floor. The crystalline cadet swung a heavy limb. It slammed the ground with a thunderous crack as Rhea pivoted out of range, motion whisper-soft. She didn't attack. She didn't retaliate. She simply wasn't there when the blows arrived. The 3 cadets grew angrier, but confusion twisted through their faces. Their brains couldn't track her. Her movements weren't fast enough to blur, just unpredictable enough to break every instinct they'd evolved with. Stop! Commander Telex's voice hit like a shockwave. The cadets froze. Their pride shrank under his glare. You disgrace this academy, he snarled. 3 armed cadets against 1 unarmed human? Pathetic. The crystalline cadet tried to defend himself. She humiliated. No, Telex snapped. She survived. You attacked. He dismissed them with a harsh gesture. Rhea expected a reprimand, but Telex motioned for her to follow. His office was dim, lit by a single panel casting blue light over the walls decorated with war relics, trophies from battles across the Orion arm. Telex stood with his back to her, studying a hollow-screen replay of her gauntlet run. He rewound the footage. Played it again. Stopped at the moment she dodged the blast pulse. You closed your eyes, he said quietly. Rhea swallowed. For half a second. Why? So I could see, she answered. Telex turned slowly. Delta phase movement. I haven't seen it in 20 years. She stiffened. You recognize it? Of course I do, Telex said. Your grandmother, who is she? Rhea hesitated, only for a heartbeat. A recon operative. Before she retired. Telex nodded. Then I understand. He studied her expression. But I must ask, why come here? You could have joined any human combat division. I wasn't ready, Rhea said softly. Not until she passed. Telex's stern features softened for a brief moment, almost sympathy. Then hardened again. There is something you must know, he said. Some cadets are planning retaliation. Pride is a volatile thing. Rhea lifted her chin. Sir, may I request non-intervention? Telex blinked. You want to handle it yourself? I want to understand them. Avoid escalation if possible. Telex inhaled deeply. Humans, he muttered. Always dangerous in the strangest ways. He dismissed her. Rhea walked back through the academy corridors, lights dimming into evening mode. The air grew still. Her footsteps echoed lightly. For a moment, she felt almost at peace. Then she sensed it, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Not by a cadet. Not by a friend. Not by an enemy. By someone trained. Someone hidden. A figure stepped deeper into the shadows, a faint glint of a recording device catching the light. A voice whispered softly into a communicator. The Earthborn is more dangerous than projected. Begin phase 2. Rhea stopped walking. But she didn't turn around. Because she already knew. Whatever phase 2 was. It was coming for her. And she would be ready. The academy sirens wailed before dawn, short, clipped, urgent. Cadets stumbled out of their barracks, some half-armored, some still blinking sleep from their eyes. Lights across the training complex flickered to red alert mode, bathing the courtyard in a low, ominous glow. Rhea emerged last, fastening her uniform collar, her movements precise despite the chaos. She felt the tension rolling through the air. Something had shifted overnight. The ground vibrated faintly beneath her boots, not from machinery, but from hundreds of cadets gathering in tight formations. All cadets, a voice crackled through the loudspeakers, report to the central arena immediately. This evaluation is mandatory. Evaluation. But this wasn't on the schedule. Rhea's eyes narrowed. She sensed the manipulation already. Whoever whispered "Begin Phase 2" last night had pulled the strings. She made her way toward the arena, breathing steadily, letting panic fall away like rain off armor. Inside the colossal dome of the central arena, holographic walls shimmered with static. Cadets filled the stands, murmuring uneasily. The atmosphere vibrated with suspicion. Commander Telek stood on the observation deck, arms folded, expression unreadable. Beside him stood the intelligence officer, a narrow-faced figure with pale, flickering eyes that tracked Rhea the moment she entered. A chill crawled up her spine. Telek addressed the crowd. Today's assessment will measure interspecies synergy. Observe carefully. Rhea knew it was a lie. The officer's stiff posture, the aggressive energy, the way their fingers drummed against the console, they were setting her up. The officer stepped forward. Their voice carried an artificial smoothness. This simulation evaluates adaptability under hostile environmental shifts. It is designed to reveal hidden weaknesses. Rhea locked eyes with them. No. Designed to expose her. The simulation chamber hummed as the arena transformed. Floors retracted. Gravity pockets shimmered like transparent waves. Heat vents pulsed. Magnetic traps activated. It was a stacked deck, full of hazards tailored to exploit human physiology, not alien strengths. A low murmur spread across the stands. This is too much. Those temperatures will crush her. Humans can't survive that gravity flux. Rhea stepped into the chamber without hesitation. The door sealed behind her. The officer smirked. The simulation began with a blinding flash of light. Rhea leaned forward just as the ground tilted sharply. A gravitational dip tried to pull her sideways, but she compensated with a heel pivot, absorbing the shift without stumbling. Alien cadets watching outside gasped. Her body seemed to move before the hazard even triggered. The reptilian Vraction muttered, "No one reacts that fast." "She isn't reacting," the avian whispered. "She's calculating." Inside the chamber, the terrain shifted again. Heat vents burst open. A magnetic choke slammed a metal beam toward her. Plasma arcs zigzagged through the air. Rhea paused for a fraction of a breath, long enough to read the panel sequences, the energy pulses, the angle of force. Then she moved. She ducked under a plasma arc by leaning back just enough for it to skim her hair. She rolled sideways across a friction ramp, allowing the magnetic field to drag her into position for her next jump. She somersaulted between two collapsing beams as if she'd memorized their timing beforehand. The crowd fell silent. The officer's smile vanished. Telek gripped the rail, eyes sharpened with recognition. Rhea wasn't surviving the simulation. She was solving it. The hazards escalated. Platforms spun unpredictably. Gravity inverted. Shock waves rippled through the floor, strong enough to throw heavier species off balance. Rhea moved like she was gliding across broken terrain, her instincts firing with mathematical precision. Her joints bent at angles other species considered unnatural. She used the low gravity to spring across rotating panels. She used collapsing beams as stepping stones. She used the simulation's aggression as leverage. But something unexpected happened. A Vraction cadet screamed over comms. "There are 3 others trapped, East Quadrant." Rhea snapped her head toward the coordinates. 3 alien cadets, 1 crystalline, 1 insectoid, 1 avian, were stranded on a platform about to be crushed by descending plates. She didn't hesitate. She ran toward them. The simulation AI didn't account for that. Its attack frequency increased, targeting her path. Plasma arcs locked onto her. Magnetic traps triggered in rapid succession. She dodged every hazard with split-second timing, then launched herself toward the collapsing platform. The aliens reached for her, she reached back. She grabbed the insectoid's arm first, pulling him across a rising beam. She shoved the crystalline cadet onto a stable ramp. She pushed the avian forward just as the plates smashed together behind them. The watching cadets erupted in confused, stunned silence. She had just saved the very species that resented her. Rhea didn't look back to see their reactions. She kept moving, reading the hazard cycles, guiding the rescued cadets until they reached a safe zone. The intelligence officers slammed their fist onto the console. "Override," they barked. "Increase hazard output by 200%. Telex snapped his head around. "You'll kill her." The officer smiled coldly. "Exactly." Rhea felt the shift instantly. The chamber became a death maze. No cadet, human, alien, or hybrid, could survive this output. Unless they could predict the entire system at once. Rhea closed her eyes. Just like her grandmother taught her. The world slowed, not literally, but perceptually. She inhaled. She exhaled. When her eyes opened again, her gaze had sharpened into something unnervingly calm. Delta phase. Full activation. She sprinted into a barrage of hazards that no living creature should be able to navigate. The crowd watched in silence as she moved like water around steel, like instinct wrapped in calculation. Her feet struck only surfaces that existed for milliseconds. Her hands grazed beams that would disappear a heartbeat later. Every hazard passed through spaces she had already abandoned. It wasn't agility. It was pre-layout analysis, anticipation at a scale bordering on terrifying. When she reached the core control module, the entire arena snapped to black. The simulation collapsed. Lights restored slowly. The chamber door slid open. Rhea stepped out without a scratch. Cadets stumbled back instinctively, as if witnessing a predator disguised in human skin. The intelligence officer descended from the deck, face pale, eyes flickering with alarm. "You are a threat," they hissed. Humans were never meant to possess such instincts. Rhea looked at them calmly. "You made the mistake of thinking unpredictability is weakness." Telex stepped forward. The officer sabotaged the simulation. We all saw it. The arena erupted. Accusations. Outrage. Shock. Fear. The officer was detained by Academy security. Rhea stood still amid the storm, her breathing slow, her posture composed. For the first time, the alien cadets approached her not with arrogance, but gratitude. Even the Vraxian bowed his head slightly. "You saved my life," he said. Rhea's reply was simple. "We're cadets. That's what we do." She returned to her barracks in silence. Exhausted, she sat on her bunk and pulled out her grandmother's hologram. "I showed them," she whispered softly. "Just like you wanted." The image flickered gently, as if nodding. For the first time since she arrived, the tightness in her chest eased. She felt accepted. Not because she had overpowered anyone, but because she had revealed a truth the galaxy had ignored. Humans weren't weak. They were different. And difference was powerful. Across the stars, far away from the Academy, a war council viewed the simulation footage. Cloaked figures murmured in darkened chambers. If one Earthborn cadet can outperform an AI on maximum threat level, imagine what an entire human battalion could do. Prepare new protocols. A final voice spoke, cold and calculating. The age of underestimating Earth is over. Fade out.